tens of thousands of construction projects are underway around the world at any one time, and the vast majority of these have gone through meticulous planning to ensure that once they're complete, they'll be safe and worthwhile. Things don't always go to plan though, and sometimes construction projects fail to complete, whether due to lack of funding or for other reasons these ideas were just not meant to be. So for today's video, I'm going to explore 15 failed construction projects. Number 15. City Center, Las Vegas. City Center is a mixed-use development located in the heart of the Las Vegas Strip, and at the cost of $9 billion was one of the largest construction projects ever undertaken in the United States. The project was a joint venture between MGM Resorts International and Dubai World, and it was designed by a team of renowned architects and designers, including Pelly Clark Pelly, Helmut John, and Daniel Libeskind. Since its opening in 2009, though, City Center has faced several issues and controversies, the biggest of which was a massive overrun in cost, with the final bill being more than double the original estimate of $4 billion. This inevitably led to financial difficulties for MGM Resorts and Dubai World, and they were forced to restructure their debt and sell some of their assets. Another major issue was to do with construction defects and safety concerns. There were far more issues during construction than would be expected, such as faulty wiring and leaking pipes, with some of these leading to accidents and injuries on the site, which further delayed the project. It was hoped that when it was finished it would be the end of the problems for the city center, but it would face challenges in attracting visitors and generating revenue, particularly during the economic recession in the late 2000s. Despite its grand ambitions and impressive design, the prices were simply too high for people to be able to easily afford. With mounting legal disputes and controversies, the owners were forced to begin selling off parts of the development to recoup costs, and it's seen as one of the biggest failures on the Strip in recent years. Number 14. Versailles Wedding Hall in Israel. The Versailles Wedding Hall was a large event space located in the Talpiot neighborhood of Jerusalem in Israel. It was constructed in the early 1980s, and this venue was designed to host weddings, conferences, and other large events. It consisted of a multi-leveled main hall with a high ceiling and a balcony area, which gave a huge amount of space for guests to gather and celebrate. The venue was a well-known and popular choice for many families in Jerusalem and was often booked for important events such as weddings and bar mitzvahs. While things seemed to be fine for 2 decades, issues in the building structure came to light in 2001 when tragedy struck. During a wedding event, the upper floor of the building suddenly collapsed, causing the ceiling and balcony to cave in. The resulting debris caused extensive damage to the lower levels of the building, and many people were trapped under the rubble. The collapse resulted in the loss of 23 lives and the injury of over 350 others, making it one of the deadliest structural failures in Israeli history. The incident shocked the nation and led to widespread mourning, as families and friends grieved for their loved ones. Investigations were subsequently launched into the collapse and revealed that the building had been constructed without proper permits and without the necessary safety measures to ensure its integrity. The construction had been rushed and corners had been cut to save time and money, and the building had also been built without adequate reinforcement of the ceiling and balcony areas, which ultimately led to their failure. The tragedy at the wedding hall led to a major overhaul of building regulations and safety standards in the country, with the government introducing stricter regulations for construction projects and increased oversight and inspection of building sites. This incident also led to changes in the way the building permits are issued and greater emphasis on safety and quality control in the construction industry as a whole. Number 13. The RUSKY Bridge, Russia. Natural landscape. It provides a number of obstacles that prevent us from being able to travel the shortest distances between locations. But with many of these hurdles, it's possible to build a bridge or a tunnel if the investment is worthwhile. Bridges in particular can be extremely expensive to construct, so the planners behind them usually have to justify this by proving they'll be used. Something that isn't exactly the case with the world's longest cable-stayed bridge, the RUSKY Bridge in Russia. It's in the city of Vladivostok and connects RUSKY Island with the mainland. At 3,622 feet or 1,104 meters long, it was completed in the summer of 2012 in time for the 2012 Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference that was taking place on RUSKY Island later that year. At an estimated cost of $1.1 billion, the 4-lane bridge required huge piles to be driven 253 feet or 77 meters into the ground to keep it stable, and the result was a crossing that could accommodate 50,000 cars per day. It was a roaring success for the conference, but its worth has since come into question, considering the fact that RUSKY Island only has a population of around 5,000 people, which is a tenth of the bridge's daily capacity. Furthermore, the road leading from the bridge on the island led to a dead end just a short distance inland. And while roads on the island have now been expanded, the entire project, somewhat unsurprisingly, remains one of the most underutilized bridges anywhere on Earth. Number 12. Basilica de la Sagrada Familia. Designed by renowned architect Antonio Gaudí and located in Barcelona, Spain, the Basilica de la Sagrada Familia is a large Roman Catholic church that's become an iconic landmark of the city and a symbol of Catalan modernism. It is, however, the longest construction project still in progress anywhere in the world, having first been started more than 140 years ago, and the current estimate being that it'll be finished by 2026, hopefully. The construction on the Sagrada Familia began in 1882, with Gaudí assuming the role of chief architect in 1883, and he dedicated the majority of his life to the project, working on it until his death in 1926. Since then, several other architects have continued to work, with the latest efforts being led by Jordi Fauli. This basilica is a masterpiece of Gothic and Art Nouveau styles, featuring intricate carvings, colorful stained glass windows, and towering spires. It's designed to have 18 towers in total, representing the various religious figures and symbols, but as of now, only 8 of the towers have been completed, with the remaining 10 still to be done. The slow progress of the construction has been due to various factors, including financial limitations and political unrest. The project's relied heavily on private donations and faced financial challenges throughout its history. And due to the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s and the subsequent periods of political unrest in Catalonia, there have been long stretches of time where work has been paused. The unfinished state of the Sagrada Familia has become a defining characteristic of the basilica, attracting millions of tourists each year who come to witness the ongoing construction efforts. Still, it's taken so long to get to this point, and it's so far from the original designs that it'll be classed as a failure until it finally opens, if that point is ever reached. Number 11. The Isaac Peral Submarine. For most countries in the world, the development of a new class of submarine is something that's celebrated to show off their new militaristic capability. But in 2013, Spain's new addition to the fleet became somewhat of an embarrassment. Known as the S-80 Plus class, or the Isaac Peral class, it was designed and built by a private Spanish company for the Navy, with 4 being ordered and paid for up front at a cost of more than $4.5 billion. Hailed as utilizing the latest technologies and designs, which would make it a true force to be reckoned with, Spanish officials believed the subs would help them become one of the most dominant naval forces in the world. In 2013, however, just as the first was about to be delivered, a huge problem was discovered. Due to a design flaw, there was a weight imbalance in the submarine that meant that once it had submerged, it was unable to surface again on its own, something that most people would agree is fairly vital for a submarine to be able to do. Fortunately, the designers were able to come up with a fix. They had to extend the sub by a further 23 feet or almost 4 meters to increase the buoyancy enough for it to function properly. Not only did this redesign delay the project by 6 years, it also increased the costs by millions of dollars and even required the Navy to redevelop the ports that had been built for the subs because they were no longer big enough for them to sail into. Number 10. The Vivekananda Road Flyover, Kolkata, India. The Vivekananda Road Flyover, also known as the AJC Bose Road Flyover, was a prominent transport artery in Kolkata, India, until its collapse on March 31, 2016, an incident that resulted in the loss of 26 lives and injuries to many others. The flyover was initially constructed to ease traffic congestion on one of the busiest roads in Kolkata, and it was opened to the public in 2010. The 1.4-mile or 2.2-kilometer-long 4-lane elevated road ran from Mulali Crossing to the Park Surface 7-point crossing and was designed to handle a capacity of 30,000 vehicles a day, meaning it soon became an integral part of Kolkata's transportation infrastructure. Within just 6 years, though, the bridge had collapsed, and this was blamed on a range of reasons linked to poor construction and maintenance practices. The flyover was built using substandard materials, and there were several irregularities in the way the foundations had been built. There were also a raft of allegations detailing corruption and irregularities in the award of the contract, which further contributed to the oversight in the actual construction. Following the disaster, there were widespread protests and demands for accountability, Government launched an investigation and several officials were held responsible for the tragedy. The Kolkata police arrested those that were found to be to blame, including the contractors, and charged them with criminal negligence, corruption, and culpable homicide. Number 9. The Garden Bridge, London. Even with 5 bridges that cross the Thames in central London, there's still an issue with congestion, and this has led to the development of the Garden Bridge project, which was the proposed pedestrian bridge and designed to be an oasis of greenery and tranquility in the heart of the city. It was envisioned as a unique attraction, providing a new way for visitors and residents alike to enjoy the city's iconic riverfront, and soon gained traction with decent support. The project was first proposed in 2012 by the actress and campaigner Joanna Lumley and the garden designer Thomas Heatherwick. The bridge was to be built between Temple and the South Bank, and it would have been a pedestrian-only crossing. The design featured a tree-lined walkway with plants and flowers arranged in different sections to create a variety of environments, including a wildflower meadow and a woodland glade. The Garden Bridge was intended to be a major tourist attraction and a public space for Londoners, with the idea being that it would create a unique and memorable experience where visitors could take in the views of the river and the city while surrounded by a beautiful natural environment. The bridge was also seen as a way to reduce traffic in the area, with the pedestrian-only access encouraging more people to walk or cycle across the river as opposed to driving. Despite all the support, the project faced significant opposition, however, with concerns raised about the cost, the location, and the impact on the environment. The bridge was initially estimated to cost £60 million, with £30 million coming from public funding, but these estimates soon increased to £200 million, with £60 million coming from the taxpayers. There was also concerns raised about the impact on local wildlife and the river's ecology, as well as the impact on historic views of the Thames. In 2017, the project was officially cancelled by the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, citing financial concerns, even though many millions had already been spent on its development, making it one of the most costly bridges in the world where not a single brick was put in place. Number 8. Shanghai's Lotus Riverside Complex. When you see huge buildings being built around the world, you may often be left wondering quite how they stay standing so solidly in place. And the answer is in their foundations, of course. Huge steel struts are dug deep into the ground in which the buildings are built around, and this is a tried and tested method to ensure stability. If these foundations aren't done correctly, though, there can be disastrous consequences, and this is exactly what happened in Shanghai in 2009. The Lotus Riverside Complex was a new residential development made up of 11 13-story buildings, with almost 7,000 residential units. One of the buildings, however, which hadn't opened yet, but where 489 of the 629 apartments had already been sold, hadn't been built on solid enough foundations and simply tipped over. Amazingly, the building retained its structural integrity while this happened and ended up lying on the ground on its side. One worker was killed in the incident that was blamed on unusually muddy conditions, and the authorities arrested 9 people connected with the design and construction of the project, with mounting compensation claims from apartment owners and the subsequent inability to sell units in any of the other buildings for fear of a similar problem that may happen to them too. This oversight cost the construction company tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds. Number 7. Rana Plaza, Bangladesh. The Rana Plaza was an 8-story commercial building located in Savar, a suburb of Dhaka, the capital city of Bangladesh. The building was constructed in the early 2000s. It housed several garment factories, shops, and a bank, and it was named after its owner, Sohail Rana, a local politician and businessman who had illegally added 3 extra floors to the building without proper permits or safety measures. On April 24, 2013, the building collapsed without warning, an incident that killed 1,134 people and injured more than 2,500 others, which made it one of the deadliest industrial disasters in history. To further compound issues, the collapse occurred during the morning rush hour when tens of thousands of workers were inside the building. The structural failure was later found to be due to a combination of factors, including the building's poor construction with the extra floors, there being too much weight throughout the structure from heavy machinery and generators, and the presence of large cracks in the walls that hadn't been attended to. The tragedy of Rana Plaza was not only a human disaster, but also a wake-up call for the global community about the working conditions and safety standards in the Bangladeshi garment industry, which is the world's second-largest exporter of ready-made garments after China. Following the disaster, there was a worldwide outcry over the poor working conditions in Bangladesh's garment factories. and many international clothing brands that sourced from those factories face public scrutiny and protests. The tragedy brought attention to the need for improved safety standards and workers' rights in the garment industry, not only in Bangladesh, but also globally. Number 6. The Ryugong Hotel, North Korea. Pyongyang, the capital city of North Korea, isn't exactly top of most people's wish list of where to go on their next vacation. But even if it were open to tourists, no one would be able to stay in the city's tallest building, which had originally been intended to be a hotel. Known as the Ryugong Hotel, work on this 1,080-foot or 330-tall meter structure began in 1987 and reached its full height in 1992. Construction ended in that year, however, due to extreme economic difficulties in the country, and it became the tallest unoccupied building on Earth. Had it been finished then, it would have taken the crown as being the highest hotel ever built, but it fell into a state of limbo as a reminder on the Pyongyang skyline of a gross waste of money when so many people were starving. Work on the project finally restarted in 2008, when fittings began to be added to the 105 floors and a full LED display was added to one of the exterior walls that's used to project images onto. Inside, it said that the original plans were to have 5 revolving restaurants, as well as up to 7,600 guest rooms, but these have now been changed to be mixed use, with the addition of apartments and business facilities. For now, though, it retains its title as being the tallest unused structure on Earth, and there's no sign that that'll change anytime soon. Still, without windows or even electricity, it's likely to be decades before people can actually stay there. Number 5. Vdara Hotel and Spa, Las Vegas. If you're visiting Las Vegas, there's a few things you'd probably expect from any resort that you stay in. But amazingly, the developers behind the Vdara Hotel and Spa managed to get things terribly wrong. While it may be known for its luxurious accommodations and prime location on the Strip, it's also faced several issues since its opening in 2009. Probably the most problematic is its design, which had been linked to the phenomenon known as the Vdara death ray. This happens when the sun's rays reflect off the hotel's curved glass facade and focus on a spot on the pool deck, causing temperatures to reach up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit or 60 degrees Celsius, which has resulted in several instances of guests experiencing discomfort or even burns while lounging around by the pool, with the only thing the hotel can now do being to install a large umbrella to provide shade. Another issue with the hotel is its lack of a casino, which is a key attraction for many visitors to Las Vegas. Technically, the Vdara Hotel and Spa is located on the Strip, but it's set back from the road and doesn't have a direct connection to a casino. This has made it less appealing to some tourists, particularly at a place that charges such high resort fees, who prefer to stay at hotels with attached casinos. Since its opening, Vdara has struggled to generate anywhere near enough income to cover its initial construction, making it one of the most famous failed buildings in Vegas. Number 4. Hyatt Regency Hotel Walkway. In many ways, the internal design aesthetics of a building are more important than the external ones, and this has led to a number of different features being tried in the past few decades. One style that's popular is the idea of walkways connecting floors that pass over a large atrium. But in 1981, visitors to the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Kansas City saw just how deadly designs like these can be if they aren't done properly. One evening, with a tea party of around 1,600 people taking place on the ground level, there were a few people on the suspended walkways when everyone stopped still. They heard popping sounds, when suddenly the 4th-level walkway dropped a few inches and then fell from its supports on top of the 2nd-level walkway. This collapsed too, and the people and debris fell onto the party underneath, causing 114 deaths and at least 216 severe injuries. It was, until 2001, the deadliest structural collapse in U.S. history. And most worrying of all was the fact that subsequent investigations found that substantial changes had been made to the walkways from the initial design, and there was no way they would have ever held in place for very long. It was the cost-cutting measures during the construction of the building that directly led to the disaster, and as a result, huge changes were made to the rules and regulations surrounding similar projects. Number 3. Ciudad Real Central Airport, Spain. Ciudad Real Central Airport, also known as Don Quixote Airport, is a privately owned airport located in the central Spanish province of Ciudad Real. It wasn't always meant to be like this, though, and when it was inaugurated in 2008, the plan was for it to serve as an alternative to Madrid's Barajas Airport. However, due to a combination of factors, it failed to attract enough airlines and passengers, and it was eventually forced to close just 3 years later. The airport had been designed to handle up to 10 million passengers a year, with a terminal building covering about 320,000 square feet or 30,000 square meters, a runway of over 13,000 feet or 4,000 meters, and state-of-the-art facilities. It was the first airport in Europe to have a fully automated baggage handling system, which was capable of handling 9,000 bags per hour, and was also designed to be eco-friendly, with a rainwater harvesting system, energy-efficient lighting, and a solar power plant. Despite these industry-leading features, the airport struggled to attract airlines and passengers. One of the main reasons was the global financial crisis of 2008, which made it difficult for airlines to invest in new routes, and the airport was also located in a relatively remote area and had limited road and rail links, which made it much trickier to get to, something the designers had hoped would be overcome by the time it opened, but it never was. Number 2. Sampoong Department Store, South Korea. The Sampoong Department Store was a 5-story shopping complex located in the affluent Gangnam district of Seoul, South Korea. The building, which opened in 1990, was designed to be a symbol of the country's growing wealth and modernity, and for 5 years it seemed to be achieving just that. On June 29, 1995, however, disaster struck when the building collapsed, killing 502 people and injuring 937 others. The cause of the incident was due to a combination of factors, including the building's faulty design and construction, inadequate maintenance, and the addition of heavy equipment and extra floors without the proper reinforcement. One of the main reasons for this was that the building had been originally designed as an office complex and was later converted into a department store, with heavy loads adding to the building without the appropriate support. The upper floors were also being used for unauthorized purposes, including a rooftop driving range, a large aquarium, and a sauna, which further added to the weight of the structure that was unable to cope with. The tragedy shocked the nation and sparked widespread outrage and calls for accountability. The building's owner, Lee Jun, was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 10 years in prison, and the architects and engineers involved in the building's design and construction were also found guilty of negligence and sentenced to prison terms. The tragedy prompted the South Korean government to launch nationwide safety inspection campaigns and to strengthen its building regulations, and laws were passed in the aftermath that are still a central part of South Korea's building rules to this day. Number 1. Ponte Morandi, Italy. Ponte Morandi, also known as the Morandi Bridge, was a major highway bridge located in Genoa, Italy, that was designed by the renowned Italian engineer Riccardo Morandi and was completed in 1967. It was a cable-stayed bridge and was considered an innovative design at the time of its construction, spanning 3,878 feet or 1,182 meters. On August 14, 2018, though, a section of the bridge collapsed, killing 43 and injuring several others, with the fault being blamed on the bridge's design, but mainly because of the lack of maintenance and the effects of aging and weathering over the years. The collapse of the Ponte Morandi sent shockwaves throughout Italy, with the government declaring a state of emergency and launching an investigation into the causes of the collapse. They also pledged to rebuild the bridge, and in February 2019, a design competition was launched to determine the future of the bridge. The winning design was announced in September 2019, and it proposed a new cable-stayed bridge that would be wider and more modern than the original. Construction on the new bridge began in April 2020, and it's expected to be completed by the end of 2023. This new bridge is being built with safety as a top priority, and it will feature several innovative features, including an advanced monitoring system that will continuously monitor the bridge's condition and alert authorities to any potential issues, and hopefully avoid a repeat of what happened to its predecessor. I'll see you next time.
Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.